David is here to tell us all about a program called Excel Together West Virginia, and it touches on something we've talked about in multiple sessions over the last 2 days, and that is education of all of us, but especially, I think, school-age kids. But he's going to tell us more about that. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to David Goldberg. Thank you, David.
Hi, I'm David Goldberg. I'm the co-director of Excel Together West Virginia, and I'm going to talk to you about what I believe to be the most ambitious, audacious education and workforce project going on in the United States. And it's happening here with Ground Zero in Raleigh County, West Virginia. We're talking about the future. Well, what is the future? We don't know, but there's a whole bunch of storm clouds there. Self-driving cars, robots, chat GPT, green energy, gig jobs, globalization. Some of them might be great for us. Some of them might pose a lot of problems that might do away with a lot of jobs. And so how is it that we're going to go ahead and prepare for this? Well, there's only one thing that we know is really protective, and that is if we get good education here, if we have people who have the ability and confidence to learn, that's going to give us resilience to all of these different changes that are coming on. But how are we doing? So if we look at West Virginia 12th grade math scores, okay, this is what it looks like. 45% of students graduating from Raleigh County schools are below basic in math. Okay, well, what does that mean? And 41% are basic. Well, basic means 7th to 8th grade math skills. Below basic means 4th to 6th grade math skills at the C level or better. So this is where we are. But what does it look like coming forward? Well, if you were to look at chronic absenteeism in Raleigh County schools in 2018, there were 19% of students who were chronically absent. If you look last year, the number is 30%. A third of students are not even showing up at school on a regular basis. Okay, well, let's just think about this. So if we're going to look at Raleigh County adults with elementary grade skills, that's going to be, we're creating 500 of them every year, 17-year-olds going into the workforce, and we've already spent $80 million on them. Okay, that's the cost of graduating people to having 5th grade math skills. Okay, if we're going to look, though, at the adult population, because if we're going to solve this problem in the K-12 schools, that's going to be decades before we have the workforce that we need. So we have to actually do something for the adults, but there's 25,000 of them, and the amount that's been spent on educating them to that level of education is $3 billion. That's a B, $3 billion. I don't think that you would be surprised to learn that the United States at the federal level does not have a solution for this. Okay, that's not going to surprise any of you. It's also true that West Virginia does not have a solution for this. There is no plan. Let me just say that one more time. There is no plan to address this in any scale. Well, what I'm going to tell you about is we do have a plan. And I also want to mention that it's a plan, but to put it into practice, it requires you guys, okay? And so what I'm going to talk about today is what is the plan, what's the plan, and how every single one of you, and I mean every single one of you, has a role to play. And we're not going to succeed by David Goldberg doing this. You're not just saying, oh, David has a plan, I hope that it works. It's David has a plan, I'd like to join it, and and I'll tell you ways that every single one of you can contribute. So where we started was with a grant from the U.S. Department of Education to answer the question, what do people need to be successful in school, college, work, and life? And they had an answer to this, which was Common Core, which is roughly speaking the exact same thing as the West Virginia College and Career Readiness Standards. And we said, well, what would happen if you started with a blank sheet of paper? Okay, it's all about the standards, Common Core. It's all about algebra, poetry, interpretation, all these different things. Well, what would happen if we just started with a blank sheet of paper and said, well, what do people need to be successful? So you need math and literacy skills. So my background is I'm a Caltech PhD molecular biologist gone bad as serial entrepreneur. I was the first person to put a gene back into a higher organism. I cured fruit flies of alcoholism. And afterwards, I went into all these high-tech companies, 20 different industries, and it turned out that in those 20 companies, maybe 5 people needed algebra. Okay, I can tell you that other than a math teacher, no one in the state of West Virginia has factored a polynomial in the last decade, and yet that's required for high school graduation. Okay? So what we're talking about is math and literacy skills that everyone can use in every job. The next thing is that you need to use those skills to solve real-world problems. It's not about taking tests. It's about what you're going to do with it in your life. The next thing is that you have to learn new skills all the time. Okay? That's resilience, is learning, and yet most students are taught to learn by a teacher. Most employers don't even care about your skills. They don't care about the anthropology that you learned in college. The college degree for many employers is just a proxy for things like attention to detail, persistence, intention to excel. And lastly, that as we went to turnaround high schools, adult education, workforce development, we determined that the single most important factor for personal success is self-efficacy. That's the technical term for your belief in your ability to succeed, self-efficacy. Okay? Well, you could say, well, David came up with these things. Why should I believe him? So I gave a talk to the College and Career Readiness Commission of the United States, and it was community college presidents, it was school district superintendents, and 2 weeks before I gave the presentation, I asked them to fill in a survey. And in the survey, I said, with regards to the life success of your students, what are the most important things? Well, they said, just like I was just mentioning, self-efficacy and persistence are very, very important. A little bit below that are attention to detail, problem-solving, independent learning. At the very bottom was 7th and 8th grade math and literacy and college prep math and literacy, where they're putting all of their emphasis in the secondary schools. And they're even saying it's not even the most important thing. I then asked them, how well do you prepare your students for these different things? And so on the left is very unprepared, on the right is well prepared. Well, for college prep math and literacy, it's somewhere between very unprepared and unprepared. For the others, it's only a little bit better. But if you put a line through the importance of factors, flip it over and move it, you can see that the more important they've assessed things to be, the less well they prepare people. We think this is the essential failure of education in the United States. And so and let me be even more clear about this. It's not that the schools ignore these important factors. It's that the schools, more often than not, actually unintentionally undermine them. So with respect to independent learning, no, the students are learning passively from teachers. Instead of attention to detail, 60 to 70% right on a multiple choice test is a passing score where the student goes, woohoo, I passed. That in terms of persistence, instead of persistence, the student knows that they're not going to learn it tonight, they're just going to go on to the next thing tomorrow. And the first time that happens, it's frustrating. the 1,000th time that happens, it's really frustrating. It gives rise to learned helplessness. I'm just not even going to try. And finally, with regards to self-efficacy, the deepest lesson that most students have learned in their time in high school is whether they're an A, B, C, D, or F student. If you ask anyone in the United States, are you an A, B, C, D, or F student, they know what you mean and who they are. And too often it's, I'm a C student, which they interpret to be, I'm a C person. So this is what it is that we believe are the factors for success in life. These are what we call high performance factors. They're also the keys to lifelong learning. Is that what do you need to do in order to engage in lifelong learning? You need to be able to learn. You have to know how to learn, and you have to have the confidence in order to do it. And these are also the things that give you resilience to setbacks and the ability to grasp for opportunities. So we then built this course, self-paced and online, called CSM. It builds high performance. It's used in high schools, adult education, workforce development, and in workplaces. And it comes along with a certificate of high performance that gets college credit and hiring recognition. I'll describe that in a second. The CSM course, cell phone, you can take it on a cell phone, on a laptop. It's low bandwidth. It can be used in rural locations, and it's at your own pace. Most people complete it within 15 and 60 hours. Okay? The curriculum, what is that? It's college-level quantitative reasoning. It's college-level work, but there's no algebra. I told you algebra isn't really what it's all about. Associated practical literacy and problem-solving strategies and mindsets. Everything is workforce contextualized, and it's skills that everybody could use in any job. Any job, it's useful, and you'll see that in a little bit. The instruction, what is going on in CSM that's just different from every other course that you've ever heard of? The first thing is that the student has to learn everything on their own. They'll have a coach, but the coach is not allowed to help them in their math literacy and problem solving. What the coach does is teaches you how to do it on your own. The next thing is that with regards to attention to detail and intention to excel, the only passing score in CSM is 100% repeated twice, repeated 2 weeks later. That's it. That's the only passing score. And it's hard for people, but we know that people can actually do that. With regards to persistence, we measure people's frustration level. And if they're hitting the submit key a lot, if they're hitting the submit key, if they're putting junk into the system, if they're saying, I'm going over to Facebook for 5 minutes, that's perfectly fine, because there is no such thing as persistence without frustration. We want the student to be frustrated a little bit. That's where they have what they call productive persistence. But if it's rising very quickly or boiling over, then we need to send in a coach. And as for self-efficacy, when you learn a skill in CSM, it'll say, well, you should know that only 35% of four-year college grads and 15% of all adults in the United States could do what you just did. And for many people, that's a life-changing piece of information, because they've always been told you can't, and now they're being told you can. So this is the very first educational technology of this sort in the world. Does it work? Stanford Research Institute did a study of CSM against the leading online courses in the United States. In fact, the course for McGraw-Hill is the one that's being put into effect right now throughout West Virginia in their math programs, ALEX. And so there's CSM, has the highest math gains, it has the highest literacy gains, and the highest student engagement. Next is, this is a course that doesn't have algebra. It gets college credit at Concord, at Tech, at New River, but it's not only college math credit that it gets, it actually satisfies the general education math requirements for an associate or bachelor's degree. So who's going to take this course? Well, here's Brittany in Charleston. I took a lot of special needs math classes growing up, so I didn't finish high school. I kind of gave up because I can't do math, so I won't be able to do anything. I did the whole stay-at-home with kids things for a while and only worked at restaurants. Then CSM came along. I always hated math, but I really enjoyed CSM. I managed to finish. I was so excited. I got my 3 credits for math, and I started started college to be a substance abuse counselor. Well, here's the clincher here. This is a person who dropped out of high school because of math. She's going to graduate this semester with an associate degree on the dean's list from Bridge Valley. Okay? The system told her, you can't. CSM allowed her to actually show that she could. And she showed not only us, but she showed herself. Here's John Hoff in Hardy County. He spent 2 years in the associate degree program, and he couldn't complete it because he couldn't do the math. He finished it using CSM. In one hand is a CSM certificate, and the other is his associate degree. And now, what is he doing with his associate degree? He's in his 70s. He's working in the public schools in high school as a paraprofessional for special needs students. Okay? Again, human capital in West Virginia that wasn't developed that could have been. Here's a health insurance company taking it using it for employee upskilling. I found it challenging. I found it motivating. It's more tasks that I can complete. I'm more prepared and more excited for further education. 10% of people actually went on within a month on their tuition assistance program. Who took it? What you can see over here is on the right down there at the bottom, 1/4 of the people taking it already had master's degrees. 1/4 of the people already had bachelor's degrees taking the same course that Brittany and John Hoff took. Okay, it's not a math course. It's building your general high performance skills. So it's also used for blue and white collar jobs, for preparing electric power line workers. It's part of the water and wastewater apprenticeship program, preparing nurses with their math for their certification. JetBlue, you can't get tuition assistance unless you take CSM first, so they know that you'll be able to complete college. And National Oilwell Varco, a Fortune 500 manufacturing company, that they had their frontline workers take it along with 6 vice presidents, all taking the same course, because high performance for them was a cultural thing. So here we have a single course, college math, academic success skills, employability skills, deep remediation. How is it that we get it to those thousands of people in southern West Virginia? Okay? I mean, is that like maybe if we had magic, we could do it. But how are we going to do that? So this is the logic. We're putting into the community a new type of certificate called CSM certificate. And it gets college math credit from WVU, from Concord, from New River. With Workforce West Virginia, what we're doing is 2 things. Is if you're on unemployment insurance, okay, if you're on unemployment, you don't have to do job search requirements if you're taking CSM. They're putting into the state jobs database called MAC a checkbox where employers can say, we'll give you hiring preferences if you have a CSM certificate. And we're working then also with the Manufacturers Association, the Hospital Association, the Gas and Oil Association, Society for Human Resource Management, and others in order to get their members to give people hiring preferences for having CSM. Now, if that's going on, all the people who are in employers and training, workforce development, high schools, adult education, they have a reason for offering CSM. People have a reason for taking it. And as it turns out, CSM is free for all adults in the state of West Virginia. Let me just say that again. All of this is free for every adult in the state of West Virginia through the Office of Adult Education. You can go to South Kanawha Street, go in there, say, I want to take CSM, they'll give you a personal coach and the course. Okay? Here, let me just skip this. So we're almost at the end. CSM is becoming a fourth-year math option in the state of West Virginia. Well, what does that mean? So that means that you can take it instead of some of these other courses that don't give you college math credit or give you hiring preferences. And we think within the next few years, most students in West Virginia will be taking this course in high school, which means they're going to graduate high school with their gen ed math requirement already completed. In no other state, is that number more than 5% through what they were talking about dual credit earlier today, through AP calculus or statistics. This is something that has never been done in the United States ever. So you're not going to be doing 10% better than any place else. You're going to be doing tenfold or more better than any other place. And ground zero is right here in Raleigh County. And we don't know what that's going to do to college access or completion, but we can imagine it's going to be something. So we have a plan. You're part of it. What do I mean you're part of it? If you're a business, or if you know someone who has a business, okay, anyone who has a business, you can become a partner. And all that means is we will list your business in our database, in our website, in the state jobs database as recognizing the value of the CSM certificate in hiring. And we don't care what that is. You can do all sorts of things. You can give guaranteed job interviews. You can give some points on an algorithm, whatever you want. But all that you have to say is, we recognize the value. We're going to use that then to help get the schools and workforce development and adult education and people to offer it and to take it. We will direct CSM certificate holders to you. That's a talent acquisition benefit for you, and we will give it to you for free. And we'll also be able to provide employee upskilling services. So you can use this as well with your existing workforce in order to build their skills. This is free. All of these services are free, and it's going to take you less than 5 minutes to do it. Who here, well, I'm not going to ask for hands, but everyone here knows somebody who's struggling, who's lost their way, who doesn't feel like they can succeed. Talk to them about CSM. Tell them about CSM. It's free through West Virginia Adult Education with a personal coach, and they can use it for GED training, for college math credit. If they're a college stopout, they can use this to go back into college, show employers your performance skills, or get a leg up on promotions. If you're a member of a church, if you're on the board of a nonprofit, you can deliver CSM to your members or clients. So it has all those benefits for all those people. It's very simple to implement. You can implement it within your nonprofit, within your church. Okay, and the reason why is it doesn't require professional instructors. Is we can take volunteers at your nonprofit or staff, we can take volunteers at your church, train them in just a few hours to become CSM coaches, and then you can offer this amazing possibility and service to people in your church. Take CSM yourself. It doesn't matter if you lack a high school diploma. If we at AmeriHealth Caritas, many of the people who had been out of education, they had a bachelor's degree, they had been out of school for 20 years, lost their mojo, got it back by taking CSM, and then went on for advanced degrees. Part of the reason for you taking CSM as well is, as long as it's a certificate for them, for those people, if you see it as a remedial certificate, it becomes deprecated, then it doesn't become valuable. Anyone who takes it and tells their friends about it builds the value of the certificate. And if you're a teacher or supervisor, you'll be impressed by what your students and employees can do. So this is the final slide. We have a plan. We need you. It's not me going to do all of this. Okay, we've put into the community the resources that you can use along with us to change the course of the future of Raleigh County. If you're interested, please feel free. Here's 3 QR codes. If you're an employer, on the left, it will allow you to become a partner organization. In the middle, everybody else, it'll take you to our website. And then there's also a contact form on the left that you can fill out to say, I saw you, I'd like to hear more about it. I'd like to think a little bit more about how I can contribute to the future of Raleigh County. So I think that that's probably it for me. Thank you very much, everybody, for having me.